Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 68, the Conference Committee report. Many of you have studied it for a few days now, so you know what's in it. I'm just going to hit the highlights of the differences and then ask for your favorable consideration. When we left this body, the Senate's position was that we should fully fund the Promise Scholarship. The Conference Committee report fully funds the Promise Scholarship at $141 million. Another position of the Senate is that we would not pay for today's projects with tomorrow's money, that we wouldn't have a bond project. We would pay for that instead with cash in the record state reserves that we have. The Conference Committee report preserves that position and pays for all projects with current dollars. Further, you'll see that we did have to reduce some of the dollars that you may have seen in the Senate side. This is not a budget that has a lot of discretionary spending. The knickknacks and the trinkets are out of it. It's more focused on necessities, those necessities being in the forms of provider rate increases for certain Medicaid items, those also being in corrections for the items that we've talked about there. There were a lot of issues in corrections that we began addressing early on in January. We had to call Tyrone Oliver, the commissioner, several times to discuss those things with him, and he was very helpful in working through where we would end up landing. The Senate's position concerning support of independent pharmacists in the state health benefit plan is also preserved. In the judicial branch, there were a lot of different pay raises for judges and prosecuting attorneys. All of those will start in January, which is the same position that the Senate had earlier. They do start at a slightly lesser amount, closer to the amount the House wanted, which would put the maximum amount for a Supreme Court justice now at $230,000 and work a waterfall down from there for other positions. The Conference Committee report has several additions in agriculture, including those for an emergency management position and for meat inspector positions. In the Department of Community Affairs, we clarify that the reductions taken by the Senate will be carried forward in the Conference Committee report, but they will stay out of the State Housing Trust Fund and also out of other programs that we had started in Community Affairs. I already mentioned to you about corrections, and I talked to you about the provider rate increases. One position that the Senate did move on relates to student support services. The House planned to support mental health in schools. We moved closer to their plan. We did not fund, and the Conference Committee report did not fund the database that we had talked about earlier, but we did move to their line items concerning student support services and mental health. We also moved closer to their position on a way to support poverty. It is not a QBE item, and it's a one-time pilot fund, but we did move closer to the House's position to try that in the areas moving forward. In the ERS budget, we stayed with the $26 million that's recognized in the base, but the Senate's addition of that item had to fall substantially to about $10 million. We still have language that explains that we want that to be a one-time supplement paid to eligible retirees, and we are letting it be paid upon approval of the board. In human services, the way this budget ended up balancing out is the governor saw two areas that he really wanted to support. One of those was a building at the University of North Georgia. The second was in the Department of Human Services, out-of-home care. That's the monies that are paid to those who foster children across our state and those institutions that do so. Looked like there's going to be a substantial shortfall in that budget, and the governor brought a total of $50 million total for projects, the UNG project and the out-of-home care project, to make those be at a number that he felt more comfortable for this year's budget. The other positions that the Senate took relating to many of the capital projects remain the same. There was one late addition where the Senate funded, or the Conference Committee report funded, a half position at Valdosta State University, but the rest of those, I believe, were already funded in the Senate's portion. Again, the big highlights, I think, from our bigger positions is the Promise Scholarship is fully funded. There is no additional debt in this budget, and it does balance thanks to the help of our friends in the House and our friends at the governor's office. Mr. President, I think I've cleared the highlights. If there's any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them, and if there aren't, I'll yield the well and allow us to vote on House Bill 68, the state's 2026 general budget.
I I see your lights come on over there, Senator. Looks like you got a little mini me over there. The Senator from the 19th.
I yield. For those of you who can't see,
he's smart too.
That is my little 3-year-old son, John. He is adorable, and buddy, I love you a lot. On the wall, Mr. President, also is another mini-me. That is 11-month-old William, who is excited as he can be. And my beautiful wife, Ashley Nicole, we celebrated our 9th anniversary yesterday. So.
All right. Congratulations. All right. That's outstanding.
So now y'all ask me those mean questions. So I'm kidding.
Happy anniversary. Recognize the Senator from the 38th.
Thank you, Mr. President, and happy anniversary, Mr. Chairman. Do you yield?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate John for waving, so I can ask you a couple questions if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
The last time that you presented the budget, there was money originally in the budget for mental health. Am I correct that is now back in there for student support services at $19 million?
I apologize. I could hear you a little bit, but I couldn't pick up everything you said. I'm sorry.
There is now money in the budget, $19 million for student mental health support services.
Yes, sir. It was in the Senate's version. We took and moved the APEX program over.
Okay.
In discussions with the House, they made a very convincing argument for moving that back to DBHDD.
Right.
So we did that and then funded a priority of the House in student support services with mental health. Yes, sir.
Wonderful. And so now also for the first time, we're going to have a opportunity weight of $15 million. Is in the form of a grant, but that is to support students that are in economically disadvantaged schools, correct?
There is a economic weight. It is non-QBE, so it's not a QBE formula grant. It is. You'll see the language is very clear. It's one-time pilot.
Yep.
We're going to watch this. As you know, there's been a lot of discussion over the years of what we should do for the QBE formula going forward. We did not want to tie our hands behind our back by entering into something now that school systems would balance their budget or base their budget on in future years that could hinder that process.
That's fair. And final question. You mentioned calling Tyrone.
Yes, sir.
Do you know the famous singer who wrote a song named Call Tyrone?
It is so funny that you should say that. As it turns out, when you're working through the budget process hours and hours at night, it does get late. And on more than one occasion when we would call Tyrone, someone would bring that up, and it did get played on more than one occasion. But you can't use my phone, Senator.
Oh, there we go. All right. So. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Recognize the Senator from the 29th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
Yes, sir. To my good friend from Columbus area.
Senator, is it still our understanding that we will be taking hard-earned taxpayer dollars and still supporting public broadcasting, even though it is a non-governmental agency?
Well, it is a governmental agency. I do know that your position is that it may not serve a governmental purpose. But yes, sir, the Georgia Public Broadcasting and its emergency television and its education programming is funded at about $13 million in this budget.
Is Senator further yield?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, would you agree that their emergency response abilities over the past 30 years have greatly diminished through the use of cell phone towers and the fact that most Georgians carry 1 to 2 cell phones on them, and we get all of our emergency notices through that cell phone?
I do think that it's becoming more and more pervasive cell phone usage, yes, sir.
And Senator, do you further agree that every other broadcasting system in the Atlanta area and throughout the state of Georgia has an advertising department where they have to go out and generate their own funds through advertisement sales?
Yes, sir, you're correct.
Thank you, Senator. I yield.
And to follow up on your point, as you know, that's why we took a 25% reduction to the Georgia Public Broadcasting budget about 3 years ago for that purpose, and I understand if you want to continue to address that as we move forward. I also will support your amendment that we talked about offline that would require Georgia Public Broadcasting and live being the main television show in our corrections facilities. I think that educational programming has a lot of merit, and you've brought that up, and I will support you if we can find a bill to do that.
All right, looks like it's the last question. Senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, do you yield?
I will yield to my best friend, the Rules Chair.
Senator, I was looking through the budget, and I didn't see anything on DNA testing. Did you do anything with DNA testing in the budget this year?
We actually did have money in the amended budget for DNA testing at the Georgia Bureau of Investigations. As you know, we started a cold case unit 2 years ago. It's been extremely successful at solving many of the cold case crimes, and there was $100,000 in the amended budget to expand that program.
Senator, would you further yield?
Yes, sir. That's not in this budget, though, for clarity.
Well, Senator, you had mentioned your 2 mini-me's over there, and I was just curious if any of that DNA money could be used to test anybody from Senate Press for your 3rd mini-me.
Yes, sir. That's probably a wise idea. We need to call Tyrone. There are no further questions, Mr. President. I will yield the well, and thank you all again so much for your extremely diligent process involvement in this matter. I appreciate the calls. I appreciate how important that you made this document and how much you weighed into it. I yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration. The Conference Committee report to House Bill 68.
Thank you.